Okay, and welcome to our very first cast from Netrunners.co.uk. This is a cast that took place from the monthly tournament at Worcester, at Manaleak at Worcester, I should say. I actually skipped the first round of the Swiss. The opponent I was playing in the first round borrowed decks from someone else. Didn't really understand how they worked. Became much better as the tournament progressed, but I'm not going to be cruel enough to immortalise his game. So this is the second round of Swiss out of 4, before we break to a top 4. First of all, I apologise for the quality of the video. It's not exactly amazing, as you can see. I'm not sure whether that's to do with the fact that my 3-year-old camera just ain't cutting it, or whether I didn't focus it properly before turning autofocus off. Could be a combination of both. But regardless, I'll do my very best to explain what's going on as we go, and hopefully you can see what cards are actually there. So I'm playing Jinteki, and it's going to be a fairly standard opening of ice, and take a credit. My opponent playing Kate is playing obviously self-modifying code and clone chip to start off with. I'm pretty sure there's a sure gamble going down. The third click and fourth click. Draw a card. So I can see certainly from my hand, I've got a couple of agendas in hand, one being a fetal. Probably going to want to start doing my best to put down a remote, but obviously with self-modifying code out, a little bit concerned that he can run on anything he wants. I think I was actually quite agenda-flooded initially, so I did I installed 2 remote servers. We're going to see where he's going to run. So he runs the Infiltrate, Melange Mining Core. And for his second click, he's going to run in and trash it, unsurprisingly. Heartbreak, but there we go, draw. And final click, going to run the other remote, which was another Melange Mining Core. It was worth a try. Probably not the best play on the planet, but I was kind of hoping to secure a little bit of cash there. And it failed quite dramatically. So there's the extra piece of ice I was after, and setting up the remote. I never realised until watching these back just how often I shuffle and tweak my cards as I go, which again I apologise for. For those of you who are abroad and wondering what I'm wearing on my jumper, that'll be a poppy. Remembrance Sunday was the very following day, so feel free to have a look at it online. So, he's getting some money and running. No katana in your face, but he's going to get his breaker. Break. Which was expected. Certainly the difficulty with running against Shaper, particularly when I've got self-modifying codes out, is nowhere as safe with just 1 ice. He gets his ninja. Wipes him out, breaks through, accesses and takes a Gillahands. I do my 1 net damage. Again, I was expecting him to break through. One of the reasons why I put a 1-point agenda in there. I figured it would probably be worth it if I could score it, and if I lost it, it wasn't the end of the world. At the very least, it made me use up his self-modifying code to pick out pick up a sentry breaker. Discarding. I don't think there's anything important now that I haven't got a Jackson Howard out. First click draw, second click draw, third click. I'm going to take some money. And that's it. Third and fourth. So that looks like it's most likely a Jackson. And there indeed it is, and we'll use him for the second click. God, I love a bit of Jackson Howard. And for the third and final.
In order to move to advance the card, you need to spend a click and basically do that. Installing a D choice.
Thanks for the credit, and then discarding. Again, probably taking a little bit of the agendas out of my hand. Certainly was concerned about I think again I had probably 3 agendas out. So we got the Magnum Opus out, which is going to certainly make it difficult for me to control his economy anymore. Run on archives and use Jackson Howard. I'm taking 2 agendas, putting them back in the deck, and a melange, and revealing an Edge of World. Love Edge of World in this deck. This deck is primarily built to try and set up big towers of ice. I'm splashing for a lot of different ice from different factions, but predominantly HB, as well as a toll booth. And the idea is to set up a 3 ice remote server, get to match point, and if I can get to match point, no matter what I put in there, they've got to run. And Edge of World becomes incredibly strong at that point. Doing 2, 3 brain damage can be utterly fatal for anyone running against Jinteki. So very, very, I find it very worthwhile. This deck's actually running 2 Edge of Worlds and just 1 Junebug. Junebug I seem to find triggers less frequently. So there we go. Speaking of which, setting up the Ice Tower. I know for a fact that that was an Eli, one of my other splashes. I'm very fond of ice that isn't cheap to break through. High strength to cost ice. So not going to res, access and score. Oh, horrible. So 3 points to nothing. Not what I wanted to see top decked. I'm pretty sure I pulled another agenda off the top then as well. So I am, at this stage, quite concerned. Especially as I've already used my Jackson. Oh, there are 3, but obviously I don't think I have one in hand at the time. It's not a good way to start the game. Obviously, ideally, scoring an Issei and a Gilahans would have been the absolute perfect way to start a game. But alas, it's not meant to be. So we're solidifying R&D and taking some money. And there goes my annoying shuffling again. Setting up memchip. So even more programs. And I draw and take some cash. So over to me, mandatory. I mean, again, I'm certainly in a happy position with my economy at the moment. I can res most things. I have now put something in the remote and see if he runs it. So first click draw. Second click. He's going to play Shore Gamble. And he's going to run on third click. Straight smack bang into my Eli, which he cannot break. So he bounces off and takes 2. At which point I promptly score a Brain Trust. I think it's always very important with Jinteki to endeavour to get to as close to its match point as you possibly can, as quickly as you can. I suppose the same could be said of most factions, but with Jinteki doubly so. Your traps just aren't going to fire against good players if you're not pressuring them with score. And this was very true in this tournament, certainly. The majority of my traps that didn't fire were because they didn't have to worry about what I was putting down in remotes. So, self-modifying code comes out, which is obviously heartbreaking. It means that the remote server is now utterly vulnerable. And draw, keep his hand size strong, and he's going to run an R&D. Not rezzing, not rezzing. I think that that's a chum leading into either a Wall of Thorns or a toll booth, but don't quote me on it. Trash, oh, snare, but I don't think I've got the money to trigger it. So it just goes straight to the bin. I've only got 3 credits at the moment, which is just typical, really. And something certainly to be aware of when playing Jinteki. You really do want 4 credits in your pool at all times, and it's the problem with scoring that agenda. It's left left R&D incredibly vulnerable, and snares are a beautiful indirect way of defending R&D. Celebrity Gift, one of my favourite new cards. Leaving one behind, and letting me have a look at 4. So he sees the Chum, double neural EMP, and a fetal AI. Certainly not much risk of him running on HQ. And again, I think fetal AI especially makes Celebrity Gift a strong card. It's the one agenda that you really don't mind showing, and you know, to go for an increase there of 5, it's like a sure gamble without having to have the money for it, which is very nice. Obviously it takes 2 clicks rather than 1, not quite as strong, but still very strong. Obviously 5 cards is the dream. Another clone chip, at which point I have a look at his heap and double check and see what he can bring out. I think I was looking to see if he had a barrier breaker in there, which he didn't, but obviously with the self-modifying code it's a little bit irrelevant. I think I was looking to see if, I don't think he had it. He didn't have a code gate breaker or a barrier breaker, so you can only bring 1 in. Toolbox comes out. At this point his rig is pretty much assembled, and I am panicking. Just a touch. Just a touch. 2 points to 3 points with a full rig is not good. So there's the Baku card. Don't ask me to pronounce it properly because I really can't. But it's barrier. And is he going to go and fetch his barrier breaker? No, he bounces off. I don't think he had the money for it. But I certainly did. I had the money to res it. I wasn't worried. So the card goes on. That nice big fat central. Sorry, central remote rather. I can tell you that it's a Chum. Not to, you know, break suspense. And another card goes into the remote server. Looking to score agendas, possibly a fetal. Pretty sure it was a fetal. I think at this point I was thinking maybe I could take the flatline off him. Certainly he was running very aggressively, especially for Shaper. And I figured putting the fetal in there, unadvanced, wasn't too risky, because I didn't think he would have the money or the cards to take it. At this point he's sitting on 3 credits, without a barrier breaker, or a code gate breaker. So he can either breaks the Chum or breaks the Eli, but not necessarily both. So he takes 4, draws a card, and then last click runs the remote, at which point I res the Chum. So it's running on last click as Jinteki. Never a great plan, I have to say. It's probably not a great plan against any corporation, especially any one corporation that could potentially be running snares. But especially with Jinteki, it's very risky. This was probably a play he didn't have to make. His barrier, his rig was virtually assembled, and this was an unnecessary risk. Let's see if it pays off. So self-modifying code for 2. Going to search for Corroder. So he's looking to skip past the Chum, so the Chum is in effect. He then pays to break Eli, apart from the fact that he has forgotten, which I now point out, the Eli is at 6 strength, not 4. And so, again, he made an absolutely horrific mistake here. And he knew it, he wasn't happy about it, as you can imagine. He thought he had the money, didn't, bounced off the Eli, didn't have the money to break both subroutines. So 3 net damage, and he'd already seen my hand and knew exactly what was coming next, in the shape of double neural EMP, and that's the game. I was very glad. In truth, I didn't think I was going to take this game. So yeah, that was 10-3. and will then go on to the next game as runner.